Welcome. This is the Public Works Podcast. My name is Joseph Blackman. Today, I got a real treat for you. His name is Micah Gaudet, and he is the Deputy City Manager for the City of Maricopa in beautiful Arizona. But he's also one of the leading voices in regards to AI in government. Micah, say what's up to everybody.
Hey, Joseph, thanks for having me on. Love this podcast and excited to be here and talk with you.
Sure thing, man. Sure thing. So we got a couple fun things to talk about. One is you, and two is AI. So let's talk about you first. Let's go into your career trajectory, like from leaving high school. What got you into the position of being a deputy director for the city of Maricopa today? Talk about your path.
Yeah, so a lot of luck, Joseph, to be honest with you, just kind of being the right place, the right time. And
Sure.
I think it points to the benefits of working for good leadership. So after I joined the military out of high school and did that for a couple of years, deployed to Afghanistan and had some fun doing that kind of work. And then my career path at that time was all in the intelligence sector. So I did some stuff for the state of Ohio and did that for a while out there. I had some fun doing that. Got my master's degree. I was out there. The joys of living, in between houses and staying in a extended stay America and working overnights, and then master's degree, getting back with a 2-year-old there, all the fun stuff. Right. And then an opportunity came up to move out here to Arizona. We have a sister that lives out in the Phoenix area. So I wanted to kind of get closer to family. We didn't have any family in Ohio. So an opportunity moved to come out here and take a position with Maricopa County Attorney's Office as the Director of Crime Strategies. So I came out here for that position, helped start a program called Intelligence-Led Prosecution, helped start that at MCAO, did that for a while, and then was kind of high up on the totem pole to be shown the door once the new county attorney kind of came into office. And so I was, again, on the outside looking in. And that's kind of where I got my foot into local government, right? I always had a kind of interest in local government as a constituent, as a resident, but never actually worked in local government. So an opportunity arose to be the director of housing for the city of Nogales. And so I took that opportunity, and it was somewhat brutal. It was about a 2.5-hour commute one way from my house in Queen Creek, Arizona, down to Nogales. But it was a lot of fun, and worked with some really great people. Got there right around or just before COVID-19 kind of took off. So I was able to take some of the experiences I had with emergency management with Ohio and apply them to kind of some best practices for the city, help lead them through that. And that's where I got that bug to say, hey, I want to be a city manager, what this looks like. So I talked to a mentor and said, hey, what do I need to do? He said, well, volunteer for everything. And so that's what I did. Everything I could get my hands on, if it was MOU negotiations with the police and fire unions, if it was, doing stuff with the budget, with HR policies, you name it, I was trying to just get my hand in everything I possibly could. And I figured I'm driving 5+ hours. I might as well keep myself busy while I'm down here. Only so many tacos you can eat in one day. I try my best to fill my belly full, so a lot of fun, a lot of great experiences. The absolute best Mexican food you'll ever have in your entire life is in Nogales, Arizona, and everyone else is just pretending, in my humble opinion. So that was fun, right? Did that for a while, and then an opportunity came up to be the town manager in Miami, Arizona, which is in kind of the Miami Globe area, about an hour, I guess it'd be about an hour east of Phoenix, so in the mountains up there. Did that, had a lot of, again, some really good experiences, working with some phenomenal people. And then for some family reasons, decided to take a step back from that position and came to the city of Maricopa. And I was originally here as an organizational health manager, doing some stuff with risk management and things like that, and a holistic approach to organizational health. Did that for about a month, and then I was asked to be the deputy city manager over public safety, and that's where I've been at. It'll be a year ago in September. So I get to work with some of the best people, in the city in terms of our firefighters and police officers every day, and it's just an absolute joy to be able to be here and work alongside them and get to be their leader.
Sure. Love it, man. Thank you for answering like that. The reason why I reached out to you was because I can tell you're the I would say leading voice in regards to AI or even ChatGPT in regards to government. So give us the reason why you started going that route. You could be an expert in pretty much anything, but why? What got you tipped off to AI?
So Joseph, I first heard about AI on one of those news podcasts, right? Like just something to kind of get my daily news from. And listening to this guy talk about what's happened in the world. And he's talking about this thing called ChatGPT. I was like, oh, this is interesting. So I pulled out my phone and started playing around with it. And originally, what I was doing with it was just creating like dad jokes, right? Or how to write bedtime stories for my kid, or just it's just really, really innocuous, probably using it the absolute worst way possible in terms of what you actually should be doing with it, right? But quickly I realized that, okay, wow, this is interesting. It can generate this content and generate these responses. And so I slowly started incorporating it into work, all right? And I would do things like, I get a lot of emails from vendors or solicitors, right? And my philosophy has been, that's a person who's trying to make a living and make, ends meet for them and their families or whatever. And so I don't want to just brush these people off, because I want to be respectful to their profession as much as they're respectful of my profession too, right? Respect kind of goes both ways. And so I started using ChatGPT to help me respond to them more quickly. And that way I wouldn't have to take, 30 minutes to craft an email. Okay, does this look right? It's a public record, all the stuff like that, right? So I would just simply put the email and say, hey, please respond saying I'm going to decline to move forward with this at this time, or something like that. And I was able to kind of quickly generate these things and saw, okay, wow, this is actually producing some really, really high quality content, and I'm able to be a little more proficient in my work. And so that shifted from there to doing stuff with memos, job descriptions, things like that. And I was actually at a conference in Kansas City area talking to a fellow city manager, a colleague, a buddy of mine. And he said, hey, why don't you, I was talking about ChatGPT and how I thought it was pretty cool. He said, hey, why don't you put together a little webinar on how to use ChatGPT for city managers? I was like, dude, no one's going to want to listen to this. No one's going to hear me talk at all. There's no way. I'm not doing that, right? So he's like, no, you should do it. It's like, okay, fine, I'll do it. And I kind of just, I'll do it to kind of shut you up. That way, you can realize that I'm right here, right? Well, I was wrong. He was 100% right. And I had about 180 people show up to this LinkedIn Live event. So really great showing. And then since then, just, been working we created a course, the first ever course on ChatGPT and generative AI for the public sector. Last November, or last month, I guess, launched a AI local government network, and have been asked to give different speeches or talk to folks about AI local government. So it's been kind of an organic process, and I've enjoyed the run. I've told people that I'm kind of on this ride until I get bored of it, and then I'll hop off. But sure, we'll see where it goes. And so far, it's been a lot of fun, Joseph. It's been quite enjoyable.
I love your first step into it, because again, I'm on the sales side also. And rarely we get told no. It's more so like, oh yeah, we'll get back to you, or reach out after the new year. We'll talk more. But you never really get that, and it's unfortunate, because we're okay with getting a no, because then we can say, all right, no big deal. We'll go down the road and see if our product works somewhere else. But please just give us a yes or a no, not just silence or a maybe. So I applaud you in using ChatGPT to be able to eloquently give a salesman a no or a go away, which is okay.
Yeah, because again, I want to be respectful to their time and their effort. They're trying to, they're doing their job. I can't be mad at them. They're sending me email. That's what their job is to do, right? And so that way, it doesn't have to waste time on efforts that might not lead to fruit at all, and they can spend their energy in other areas. So
yeah. We're what do you say to those out there who are like, what, government doesn't really innovate? I'm sure my bosses will be timid about using ChatGPT or AI because of like giving up, insider knowledge and stuff like that. What do you say to those who think it's out of compliance or it won't make sense in government because of how strict it is?
Well, I would say to those who are wanting to innovate, but maybe they feel like they are hampered or not able to innovate, I would simply say go to maricopa-az.gov and find the jobs page, and come work for the city of Maricopa, because we're looking for innovators, right? So shameless plug there for recruitment there.
I love it, man. I love it.
So the other thing too is each city is going to be unique, right? The needs of each city are unique. I think this is important for each city to adopt guidelines, if they need guidelines, or policies if it gets to that level, on what makes sense to them, and adopt things that work for that city. Each city is unique. We have to embrace the uniqueness of each city, each organization, and do what works best for you and your city. I think we get too wrapped up, and I think maybe too eager to go into this whole idea of creating a policy when we really don't. It's not obvious to me that we really know what the problem is in the first place. So before we create a policy, the first question is, what is the problem we're trying to solve? The second question is then, what's the best way to solve this problem? And after those two first questions are answered, if the second question is the best way to solve this is through a policy, then yeah, let's all day long, let's create a policy that helps out with that. But it's not obvious that, number one, really know what the problem is, and number two, that a policy is the best way to do it. So I think just being careful and adopting guidelines and adopting practices that really help and accent what's best for that individual city is appropriate.
Sure, sure. I like the example you gave, of course, of being able to tell the salesman no. But what's a sticking your toe into the water for AI? What would be something that it doesn't have to be through work, but you would advise somebody to look into or try just to be able to see the power of using artificial intelligence to be able to operate more efficiently?
I think one of the great ways to do it is through job descriptions. And if you think about it, this is often how we write job descriptions right now anyway. So we have a new position, or we want to update a position. What do? We go out and look at a bunch of sister cities and look at what their job descriptions say. We scour the web and say, okay, hey, I like this paragraph from this section, or I like this bullet here. And we kind of piecemeal together, almost like a Frankenstein type of model, but hopefully a little better looking in terms of what that final job description does. It's basically a combination of job descriptions across, our public sector in terms of what we bring in. Well, instead of having to do all the research to find all those job descriptions, having to read through all those individual ones and find out which ones are best or whatever, that's what ChatGPT does for us as a large language model. It pulls that together. So if I say, hey, I want to write a job description for a public works director for the city of Peoria, Arizona, for example, well, it can do that. And it can pull all the information it knows about public works directors, the database it has on job description for public works directors, and I can have that job description written in approximately 2 minutes, as opposed to the hours and hours of research. Obviously, you want to go and check and make sure it's accurate, reflects what you want to have in that position. Having that human in the loop is critical. But to me, that's one of the best ways to use ChatGPT and generative AI is writing job descriptions or just that kind of content like that.
Sure. What's your answer to the question of where does ChatGPT get all this information from, and why should I listen to them, or are they even right? Like, where does it come from? Meaning, where is the information derived from? Because when we type something in on Google, like how to clear my son's eczema, right? It gives you 20 different links to find 20 different articles on how to figure out eczema. But ChatGPT, it'll just give you a paragraph, and who knows if that's the right one or not. So what do you say to those people who are skeptical about where the information comes from?
I mean, so this probably goes back to my days in the intelligence sector, where sorting information was critical. And I don't care. To me, it doesn't matter to me if ChatGPT writes something or if I read something on the website itself. That I want to find the original source of information to verify if it's accurate. Now, with the example of a public works director job description, I mean, I'm not overly concerned about accuracy, because it's a job description. It's not like they're not going to talk about putting lights and science and arrest powers into a public works director. But when it comes to the research thing, there's some really, really great tools out there that to me I think are much, much better than even Google itself in terms of research. One of the ones I use quite a bit is called Perplexity AI. And this is one where I can put a question in, say I'm researching the cost of Motorola radios for police and fire department, or even for emergency management, or maybe something for public works or something. I can put, hey, what are the capabilities, or I'm looking for a cost or capabilities or differences between two radios. I can do that, and this can provide me answers, but each one is going to be sourced. And so I can go and look at the original source of what that document says.
Yeah.
So I can see that and get the information. I mean, obviously you don't want to check your work and see that, but those are some, the question about, hey, how do we know that it's true? Keep asking those questions. And I think we need to ask those questions in more ways than just generative AI. Ask the same questions when you get a memo from your staff. Ask the same questions when you see something online and see it in Google, right? Not everything we see online is accurate. I know that might be a shock to some folks, but that's the reality of our world. And so sourcing it and seeing the information is critical.
Yeah. My wife and I were working on our Christmas cards for the year. And so we kind of came up with the blurb, and I'm like, hey, let's drop this into ChatGPT and just see if they could spice it up a little bit. And it did. And it kicked out something that was really cool and flowed a little bit better than, what we kind of stumbled through. And it was fun to have that experience and see what ChatGPT could do, something in a minuscule task like a Christmas card blurb.
Yeah.
One thing we learned was the inputs will give you a certain output. The prompt, what you ask of it, will determine which direction it goes. Because you could say, "Hey, make this funny," or "Hey, make this into a rap or a poem," or "Make this seem really vague," or pie in the sky, and it'll give you exactly what you're asking for. So, what are your tips for making sure you have the right prompt, or giving it the right input or the right direction to give you your desired result?
So I'm gonna say two things, and they're gonna sound somewhat contradictory to each other, but I think this is important. Number one, I would say if you're curious about using AI, just start using it. Don't worry about the prompts, and you'll learn over time what actually works, what doesn't work, but just start using it. Don't worry about having the perfect prompt or the perfect input. Just, and basically just talk to it like you would, like you and I are talking here too, like asking questions and getting answers. Talk to it that way. A couple things that I like to do in terms of some best practices is I like to either give it what role I'm working as. So for instance, if I'm working on something within the fire department, a question about that, I might say I'm a city manager over the fire department. Or if I'm working for police, vice versa. Or I might say, hey, the prompt might start with assume the role of an emergency manager. And so I'm giving it the context of what role I want it to pull from, and I get better answers that way, and then ask my question. That's helpful. Other ones are, ask it open-ended. I like to ask it open-ended questions, not just yes and no. Hey, so ask it more open-ended questions to be able to provide a more comprehensive answer to it. But I think those two things really help out. But again, to the first point, I wouldn't be worried about the prompting as much as just start using it and start playing around with it. I think over time you'll get more comfortable. You realize what it can do, and you'll see some really good results.
Sure. Generational differences. Getting someone who's been at the city for 30, 32, 35 years versus getting somebody fresh out of college who's working with the city, they might have a different, I guess, viewpoint of it. How do you get both of those generations to A, be eager or willing to try something out like that? And then B, how do you get it to where the generation is not necessarily used to using AI or ChatGPT, or they don't know anything about it, to go, oh, okay, I'll give this a try and see how it can work in their position?
Yeah, so I'll speak to what I did here and kind of more of an organic form of introducing ChatGPT to my team members. Is I simply brought them in kind of one by one during my periodic one-on-one meetings with them, and said, hey, I want to show you this cool tool. And it was basically, I just want to show you this. If you want to use it, cool. If you don't, you guys do some great work anyway, so I'm not going to fret over it. But show the police chief, to the fire chief. I think our emergency manager was already familiar with it. He's dialed in in the world of tech and knows probably a lot more than I would ever know about that world. Our administrative support manager, kind of one by one, and just showed them this, right? And they start, it's almost like seeing it is believing. And so once they saw what this thing could do, it's like, oh wow, this is awesome. And so these are these are tools that we're using on a day-to-day basis, just like anything else, right? Just the same way we use Microsoft Word or Outlook or things like that. We're using these as a tool to augment what we're doing and hopefully help our city out and be a little more proficient in what we're doing, how we're delivering services.
Gosh, you're so right, because it's always a tab that's open. I might not use it every single day, but it's always a tab that I go, oh, okay, well, I'm writing something or I'm crafting an email or a subject line. I can drop it into Chat GPT and see what it gives me, just to see if it's a little bit better than what I already have. Especially like with Canva. You familiar with Canva, the graphic
Yes.
design? Yeah, it's like nobody wants to start from a blank page, like nothing. So if it has like a template for you, or it'll get you started, like that is the best thing. Like it helps out so
Yeah,
much.
exactly. And just having it as a tool to say, hey, this seems a little wordy to me, or I don't like the way, sometimes it could be tone as well too. If maybe you have an email you're sending out and and the inside you're boiling up, but you don't want that necessarily come over. You want to be professional. And so it's okay, hey, let's make this tone a little more professional and kind and representing the, who we really want to be, and not just that moment. It can be super, super powerful and super helpful. It's that kind of that deep
Yeah.
breath for ourselves to don't fire the email off. Just take a deep breath, and you'll save yourself a lot of pain and
Uh-huh.
consternation in the long run.
And even on the marketing side of my business, like I can tell when others are using Chat GPT for like writing marketing copy, doing posts on LinkedIn and stuff like that. How can one avoid kind of that? Because you can kind of start to tell what like what the format looks like and how it sounds and reads. How do you avoid that? How do you kind of make it trick others to thinking that it's your own self cranking it out?
Yeah, I would say that's a matter of editing, right? And so there's different ways of doing this. So typically, a lot of my posts in LinkedIn are, I would say, inspired by ChatGPT. They're not necessarily written by it, but they're definitely inspired by it. So I'll have an idea of what I want to write about, and I'll put that out there, just kind of maybe one or two sentences, or maybe a paragraph I have. I want to shorten it down, whatever it looks like. But then after ChatGPT gives me that response, I put that into my notes on my phone, and I'm editing the words around. I'm saying, okay, I don't like how this is worded. I want to word it this way, or this seems more logical in my brain for it to move the sentence up here versus down here. And I'm doing the exact same thing when I'm writing memos or job descriptions or things like that for work too. I'm reading through it. That's that human in the loop idea. I'm reading through it and I'm editing words. I'm saying, okay, I like this word better, or I like the tone of this better, or I don't like the sentence, or maybe I have a sentence that I like my sentence better than what ChatGPT wrote. And so it really creates that hybrid approach, in my opinion, that makes it seem, or that really is more human-like, as opposed to machine, a computer, kind of that HAL 9000 type of response.
Sure. And to those who are listening, if they're working at, their position might not be too much with the hands, but they're always on the computer, they're typing out emails, or they're formatting reports and stuff. They might feel a little bit intimidated, or they might feel like Chat GPT or AI can kind of come and steal their position in a certain sense. What do you say to those who feel concerned that AI can take over? Because again, graphic designers, a lot of them have been put out of business because of Canva, or even copywriters have been put out of business from Chat GPT. Some of them, So what do you say to those who might feel intimidated with the power of AI?
I mean, Joseph, I would love to be like, hey, don't worry about it. It's going to be fine. Right. But the reality is, as technology advances, I mean, you go back to the turn of the 20th century, where the US was predominantly, the transportation system was predominantly driven by horses. Right. In a matter of a few decades, all the industry associated with horse-drawn carriages and horse transportation was almost completely wiped out, seemingly overnight, right? But what happened is you saw carriage makers shift from making carriages to making automobiles. Folks who would make the wheels for carriages shifted from doing that to making car tires. And so I think for anyone that's curious, that is passionate about what they do, that's diligent in what they're doing, their work, talent is talent. It doesn't matter what tool set you have, talent is always going to win. And so I would say, for those who are fearful of AI and concerned about it in terms of taking over their job or whatnot, I would become proficient in generative AI and start looking at that and becoming proficient with it. I heard one guy talk about how he said that AI won't replace your job, but humans with AI will, which is an interesting kind of spin on that. And so I think that,
Yeah.
again, be proficient in it. Again, I would love to say that everything's going to be fine and dandy, but I think if you look at the history of tech advancements across human history, that's not always the case. And I don't want to give anybody false hope in that regard either. So I think just, hey, start digging into it, start learning it. It's still early on in the games. There's still time to become proficient and start augmenting your skill set with that. You're here for a reason. There's a reason why you're at this stage in your life. It's because of the skills and the dedication you have to your job. Don't stop doing that and just augment that with generative AI.
When you're out doing your talks, what would you say is I'm sure you ask the room the question, hey, who's ever heard of ChatGPT or AI? 100 people in the room, how many hands go up? Like, how many of your counterparts or compatriots know about AI in general?
So everyone really knows about AI. The follow-up question I ask is how many people are actually using AI? And that's where it's usually about 50 to 60% of the room, depending what it is, that are actually using AI. And we even break that down by, hey, who's using AI for work? And it's a smaller percentage too. So I think people are very aware of it. People are using it in various capacities, whether it's for personal life, like writing Christmas cards and Christmas well wishes there, or if it's actually for work, because it's a little smaller subset. But I see the momentum growing too. It's definitely a growing trend of folks using it in their professional careers as well.
And then talk about your offering. It's a course that one can take if they are in public service. They can take your course. What's the end result after they take your course? Are they better at AI? Do they know how to use it? Are they a Jedi Knight when it comes to AI?
Yeah, basically, yes. So this course is designed to take an individual with almost no understanding of AI, even like kind of where to find ChatGPT on the internet. So it takes them from zero. I call it going from zero to hero. So it takes them from that, and it walks them through all the different ways that they can apply AI in the public sector. So we go through budgeting, we go through community engagement, we go through using it for policy creation and legal analysis, and we just basically use use cases. And that's what this whole class is about. It's about applying AI. Here's how to use it in your life. Here's how to use it in your professional life, rather. And here's how to become proficient in it. So it's about I think the total hours is about an 8-hour course with about 5+ hours of video content and instruction. It has a prompt library. So those who are interested in prompts or whatnot and kind of curious about that, it comes with a prompt library in there too. And so basically what you're able to do is not only can you can watch me, I teach the course, so you can watch me, give the prompts and whatnot, but then you can take those same prompts, those same materials, and do it on your own and see the results you get as well too, and get hands-on with the approach. So after that's all said and done, you get a certificate of completion, which is pretty cool to be able to have a certificate in AI and local government. Have that to hang on your wall or whatever you want to do with that, and show that, hey, I know how to use generative AI in local government contexts. So it's a really cool and fascinating course.
Before we get out of here, I'd love to do a live example. And I like your example on do two things. One, telling a salesman no, and then the second, a job description. So if you could share your screen and then walk everybody through and kind of talk everybody through your thought process, how you find ChatGPT, your thought process on what you're trying to get done, and then kind of the lay of the land of what it looks like.
Yeah, happy to. Here, I'll share my screen here. And I'm gonna go back to Google. That way you can see where I find ChatGPT. And so it's just type in ChatGPT, and there it is right there, chat.openai.com. So I'm gonna pull this open, and there's different ways you can do this. So if we say, please create a job description for a wastewater treatment plant supervisor for the city of Peoria, Arizona. And it's going to start doing this. Create the job title, department, location, Obviously, if I had a salary range in there, a closing date, if I'm posting this position, I can put that in there. But you can see it's pulling in all this different stuff about essential duties and responsibilities. It talks about the education and experience requirements. We could put in there, if we have a minimum experience in terms of years, that we could put in there if we have some baseline requirements of that for our city. So as you can see, it's a pretty comprehensive job description, and something that, wastewater treatment is a very technical skill set that you have there. And you can see, talks about the description, talks about the valid Arizona wastewater treatment plant operator certification. And maybe we want to have different levels. Maybe we want to say, hey, this person is level 2 or level 1 or whatever we think is important for our organization. But quickly, in the span of a couple, what was that? About 90 seconds, if even that.
90 seconds. Yeah.
We have a job description. And obviously we could iterate that. We could add more stuff to it. We could do more with that as well too.
And that's what I was going to say. The beauty is that a guy doesn't have to sit down and look at this white screen with nothing on it and then come up with a job description. I know there's templates and there's usually descriptions that one have used in the past, but this allows them to say, hey, I want to create a job for this. And boom, now he can start to edit it, either peel it back or add to it, and then be able to go forward with it. And it's, you don't have to worry about spell check because it spells everything right and grammar and all that. It's huge. And it took 90 seconds.
Yeah, and obviously, so what does that mean, right? The question then becomes, okay, we're being proficient. What are we being proficient in? And so what allows us to do is now focus on leadership and strategic vision and things like that, as opposed to having to figure out, hey, is this spelled right? Or is the punctuation correct? Well, that's already taken care of for us now. Yeah. So I think that's a really cool demonstration there as well. Now you're talking about the
let's get specific here. So a salesman's trying to sell you $875,000 worth of lights for your fire trucks, and you've had 3 calls with him already. He's done the demo, you've seen everything, but you want to let him down. You want to tell him that you're not interested, but to check back in 2 years to see if you are interested.
Okay, so $300,000 worth of lights for my city's fire trucks. We have had, say, 2 conversations with them. Right now, we are not going to move forward, and I want to re-engage in 2 years. Is that correct, Joseph? Is that?
Yep. That's
okay.
Good.
So I'm going to say, please draft a polite and professional email saying so. I am the deputy city manager overseeing public safety. The good thing too is you'll see I misspelled manager, but the good thing is ChatGPT doesn't care.
It'll
so it's still going to fix it for me. So I can have all those typos and spell checks that are there, and sometimes it just happens with typing fast, right? But ChatGPT is still going to do that. So here we go. And you can always, one of the things you can tell too, if you want to trick to see if someone's using AI, if they've not edited it, is that first line said, I hope this email finds you well, or something about, hey, I hope this finds you well. That's a dead giveaway for AI, because no one begins an email starting that way ever. So this is pretty comprehensive. Now it's long, right? So we could say, okay, this is a little long. I don't want to have such a long response. So we can say, we can do the Gen Z jingo of too long didn't read, or shorten
I've never tried that one. I like it.
And here we go. It's going to put this into a much shorter email there. So there we go. Thank you for proposal. We decided to delay this purchase. Revisit the discussion in 2 years. Please feel free to keep us updated on any relevant product updates. So pretty cool, pretty awesome. The one other thing I was going to show Joseph, I had a quick second. I want to show you this tool that I think is also a really great tool too, and that is within, because I want to talk about public works and the great work public works does. So one of the things we can also do as well is grant applications as well. So I can say, I'm a public works director for a Arizona city. Please help me find 5 grants for a road repair project that is
Gosh, that's huge.
approximately 1 mile long. And this is where so right now I'm using ChatGPT 4, the plus model. Now this is something also you could do as well with that tool called Perplexity as well. And so we know how important grants are for our cities and especially in public works. And so here can identify some grants that might be applicable for a road repair project in Arizona and some things you might want to look at. And we can do more digging into that and see what's going on there. And I think it's really, really cool to see what we could do with
does
grants.
We can do that. Does it write grants for you? Because that's a whole full-time equivalent.
It can. But you have to kind of walk it through it, right? If you say, hey, I want to apply for a CBDG grant, it'll just kind of give you the basic template. But if you kind of walk it through piece by piece, hey, I want the project scope, and here's my numbers, and I want to build a budget summary, or I want this statement of work done. You can individually piece it together, so it can definitely augment that. It won't necessarily write it. You can't just say, hey, write me a CDBG grant application. It's going to want some input, but you could probably write a grant in about a day for the community development block grant program.
Wow.
Which is incredible. It's crazy.
Yeah, that is
wild.
Crazy. Yeah, because grants, they could take months. I guess last question for you. You don't have to show everybody, you don't have to share your screen. But selfishly, I want to create a calculator to where I can have, like say, a supervisor, director. They can drop in the amount of wages they pay for somebody, and then and it'll calculate how much, how much they would lose when an employee retires, and then the cost of hiring somebody and retraining them to get them up to that level of competency. Can AI create something like that?
Let's try it. Why not? Let's see what happens. So you want to try this here. Are you talking about an ongoing calculator or a one-time thing?
It'll be like if you I'll send, let's say it's a lead magnet, and I'll say, hey, Mr. Micah, city manager, fill out this calculator to see how much it costs you every time you lose an employee and have to rehire and retrain somebody.
Okay. So let's do this then. Here's a way we can do this. There's these things nowadays called GPTs, which are little things you can do. And you can see I've created a couple. I have one that writes job descriptions for me. I have one that provides information on federal grants and I have one. Yeah.
Do these have different inputs? Meaning, are they pulling information from different locations? Why are they their own GPT? Why can't it be in the normal format?
You can do the normal one. What you can do with these ones, for instance, the take it for granted one, I trained it only on grants.gov. So it's pulling information from just grants.gov. And that way I know, hey, this is centered on grants.gov. I want to know what's there. That way I can see what's available. Other ones like the Arizona State Policy Guide is a kind of a test one of organizational policies. So instead of asking, hey, what's the policy on sick leave, I can ask this to the Arizona State Policy Guide or to our own policy guides and have something that's tailored exactly to that. So if I ask if it's outside the scope of that parameters, if I say what's the policy on the official sports team for the city of Maricopa, it's gonna say, well, that's not in policy. So it has some parameters there. So what we can do here is we can create a GPT, and for this one we're saying I want a calculator that allows me to see how much it costs when an employee leaves. Things like training up the new employee, onboarding. Anything else I'm missing there, Joseph?
And then I would say half the time it takes to get the institutionalized knowledge that retiree has.
And the time it takes to get the institutionalized knowledge of the retiree employee. And let's go with this here. And I've not done this before, so this is going to be new for me too. We'll figure it out together. We'll see if we can do this. Yeah, we'll just kind of play around and see what happens.
All right, I only see your GPT's screen.
Do you see the screen over here on the side?
Nope. All I see is my GPT's, the plus, city job I take it for granted, Arizona. There we go.
Okay, there we go. Here we go.
All right.
So this is the GPT. This is the GPT. And to get here, while it's doing this, all I did was go to create GPT. And then we go to, I want to create a calculator app or a calculator for employee retention, factoring in costs of when a employee retires and how much time and costs for onboarding a new employee and getting them to the level of the retiree.
And I can't see that screen you're working on yet.
It's not doing it again. Here, let me see here. Here we go. It's back over here. Share this tab instead.
There we
For
go.
whatever reason, whenever I pull up a new tab, it
Yeah.
gets a new one there. So it asks me for a GPT name, and we'll just say that's fine. Cost Calc Pro is good enough for now. We can always adjust that later if we wanted to.
Yeah.
It's going to try to generate a little profile picture for us, and sometimes it's hit or miss, but we'll see what the profile picture says.
This is the paid version. What's this run for a month or for the subscription?
So the subscription for this is $20 per month for the subscription, which it's about the half the cup of a cup of coffee for a week.
Starbucks days, yeah.
So here it's going to ask us some questions and say, okay, regarding its role and goal, Cost Calc Pro will focus on calculating costs related to employee retention, such as the cost of employee retirement and onboarding new employees. It will provide numerical estimates and financial insights. Now let's talk about the specific aspects we should emphasize or avoid in its responses. Are there any particular elements or details you want this tool to focus on or steer clear of? Anything that comes to mind at all for you, Joseph?
No, I would say if it can stay, let's just do wastewater in Arizona, like it'll know the salaries for that or for those types of positions.
Okay. Just going to take the information, kind of update the GPT.
And it's so interesting how it's like, it's asking us questions like, hey, help me out here. Like, I want to make this right for you. So give me what I need to make it right for you.
So it's saying, should it ask for specific details to provide more accurate calculations, or would you prefer to make assumptions based on common scenarios in this field?
Common scenarios, it's fine.
Okay. Getting to update the GPT, take all this information in and seeing this out here.
Sweet. Have you messed around with using code or coding with it?
I don't know how to code, Joseph. To be honest with you, I don't know how to do that. That's it's a little above my. That's
that would have been my.
Yeah.
I was gonna say that was gonna be my last prompt is to make sure you copy and paste that code to me so I can build an actual calculator with it.
I can send you the GPT for it if it works. I'll send you the GPT, make it public, and get you a link to it.
And I'll send you a Starbucks gift card.
Yeah.
Because I've been thinking about this, like, how can I create this calculator? Because it'll help so much with the value proposition of my business.
Yeah.
but I just haven't figured out a way to get it done, if that makes sense. And
sure. So it says it's good now. It's saying it's ready to go tread on the playground over here. So what's a question you would want to ask if you had this tool? What's a question you would ask this tool?
My vision was, let's say they pay, let's say they pay Tommy $60,000 a year and Tommy retires. How much would it cost to fill his spot with Bobby?
So let's go with this to make sure I'm accurate. This. So the city pays Tommy $60,000 a year. He
retires.
is retiring with, let's say, 25 years of experience.
Yeah.
So Bobby, where's Bobby at in experience? Bobby's
brand new to the industry, fresh out of high school.
Bobby is brand new to the wastewater industry.
$15 to 20%. Okay, interesting. Conservative, 5 to 10 grand.
Yep.
Yeah, lots of product. Yeah, that's what I missed. Yeah.
Yep.
I missed that.
And these are things that like it picks up on stuff.
To overlap. I forgot about that too.
Yeah. Yep. So you're looking at right here, if I'm taking the high ends, 22,000 neutral for now, assuming 60,000 for both. That's probably lesser if you're having a new employee come in. Loss of productivity, hard to quantify, but important to consider. Overlap cost depending on transition period. So not a bad first stab at things if you think about it.
No, not at all. And I mean, it's so this is pretty cool because it's one of those things. The data that can be spit out from this, I can put into like a sexy, front end where somebody can just drop in. Here's how much I pay the guy, and here's how many years of experience. And it doesn't have to be 100% correct, but it'll get people thinking like, oh, okay, it costs me this much every time I have an employee on who's not trained.
Yep.
So.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. It helps it out. That's kind of cool. Yeah.
Good stuff, man. Well, Micah, any questions I didn't ask you, or people asking you like, man, I wish I could ask this or answer this question for people?
No, I really appreciate the time. Hopefully, folks listening and watching to this are able to take something away from it and start playing with AI. Of course, if anybody has any questions, feel free to reach out to me, and love to talk with you guys about AI and local government. So happy to be a help and lend a hand wherever I can. And that's cool. Thanks for doing this podcast too, Joseph. Really appreciate you shining the light on public works. They do some really, really important work for our cities, and glad to be, hopefully encouraging them to continue that really meaningful career. It's very important work that they do.
Thank you. And the question I ask everybody, if I'm coming to Maricopa and I text you ahead of time, say, Micah, where can I go to get the best burger in Maricopa? Where are you going to send me?
So I'm going to take you to the Duke. The Duke is our restaurant on our golf course here in town. They have the Duke Burger. They have some really, really great food there. It's one of my favorite places to take people when they come into town. So I'm going to take you over to the Duke at Silver Spur. Some great food there.
Love it. Micah, thank you for hopping on the podcast. Thank you for sharing your wealth of information and knowledge. Get in touch with Micah on LinkedIn. He's pretty active on there. He'll help you out. Take his course, see what it's about. Any final words before we get out of here?
No, just have a happy holidays or enjoy your New Year's as well, too.
All right, man. Thank you for hopping on. This is the Public Works Podcast, and thank you, everybody, for tuning in.